Hi there, this is Patrick Belton of the InsurTech FinTech Revolution.com. This presentation brief is about survival in the modern insurance marketplace for your organization, what your firm needs to do to survive, what challenges it faces. The changes, these are all encompassing that we're currently going through, and they point to major dislocations in the insurance industry, not just society. New business models must be created to survive. We are on the tipping point. I just need to add a brief note on all of the slides in this video presentation. I do make one apology. I was experimenting on different slides with different microphones. So as you go through each slide, when the page turns, you may have to adjust the volume level on your listening device. In the insurance industry in Canada today, we are facing the demise of the current insurance industry structure. But how fast is this transformation of the insurance business going to be? How quickly will it occur? The dynamics of the demise of the current insurance structure are vital for your understanding and navigating your business through this. So while there's a consensus among experts and observers that the transformation is undergoing now, the speed and the manner of that process of the transformation will determine whether or not insurance organization incumbents can survive the transformation process or die off during it. So while exact predictions are impossible, we can still explore the issues surrounding this whole dynamic at play in the marketplace, and then help leadership and managers plot a path through the transformation process. And by coming to an understanding of the reasons why the transformation process is occurring, but why it may occur faster than insurance organizations currently are thinking. So we need to explore this. Everyone needs to come to an understanding of how things like artificial intelligence are changing the insurance landscape, where the basic structural issues exist and how they must be resolved. Things like legal considerations and dilemmas being introduced by the connected home and the connected vehicle and autonomous vehicles and all the dilemmas around that. Understanding the digitized insurance distribution models that exist out there. Just having a broad but also specific understanding of the insurance industry's, the dynamics of the decline of it. And you need to understand the impact of digitization on the insurance industry value chain and the insurability of risks and how this is changing. And obviously you need to understand the digital transformation of the insurance ecosystem, broadly speaking. And so many questions are raised. For instance, will autonomous cars put an end to the traditional third-party liability insurance coverage? This is just one example, but autonomous cars technology will definitely change the focus of an insurance coverage that involves really billions and billions of dollars in premium and indemnities every year. Third-party liability. Currently most car accidents are caused by human mistakes, human error. Therefore, the person that has caused the damage is obliged by law in most jurisdictions to pay for the consequences. However, when it comes to self-driving cars, after an accident or incident, there will be enough discussion on liability field to define who should be held responsible, and consequently, car insurers might shift their traditional business model. The transition from human driver controlled vehicles to autonomous vehicles that circulate in public streets, it still lacks, obviously, the supporting legislation and clear liability definition rules. So what are the legal implications of driverless cars and the impacts on liability from an insurance perspective? These types of questions your MGA, your brokerage, your carrier obviously must be discussing today. Now, carriers are doing a better job of this, but there's still a general willful ignorance within the brokerage and MGA channel and a lack of professionalism in engaging these issues. And that's why those two channels are not enabled to navigate through this paradigm shift and navigate through the ecosystem economy. There are numerous challenges that your insurance organization faces in today's society. These include all manner of things, including empowered consumers, authentically and truly empowered consumers in a way that we have never seen before. The rapid technological innovation that your firm must deal with on a day-to-day basis. Digital distribution encroachment by other parties. New forms of competition. New forms of business models that must be conceived and are being conceived. New forms of connectivity between people, the connected home, the connected vehicle, for instance. New sources of data being generated by these emerging technologies, such as the Internet of Things. Customer disintermediation, that is a real thing. The creation of new ecosystems. The participation of your organization in the partnership economy. Your firm's participation in the mobility economy. Your firm's participation in the subscription economy, the rapid development of the mobility economy around us in society, and keyly, the willful ignorance among so many insurance executives and the leadership in Canada of this fundamental changes in society and the paradigm shift in which we are migrating through today. The challenges to insurance organizations of any type within the context of the digital economy are extraordinary. And there's a number of impacts stemming from digitization. And that includes things like digital competition. That form of competition shrinks value. In the digital economy, typically customers win out and companies lose. Products and services become obsolete. Annual product cycles, if you have an insurance policy, buy it for 12 months and that same type of policy wording exists for 20 years, that type of way of operating is going to gradually disappear to a large degree. Value pools are consolidating. Growth rates are plummeting for organizations except for the blessed few larger ones. To survive, going forward, companies must be early movers and first movers in certain areas. And keep in mind critically, in terms of the brokerage channel, digital competition itself is poised to disintermediate in the traditional insurance agent and the traditional broker, while at the same time it's intensifying competition by offering lower prices and superior service levels. Customer engagement in a digital world changes in an extraordinary way, and there's a historical weakness within the insurance industry in general in Canada. The quality of the customer experience is paramount in our new reality, and this poses a direct challenge to insurance organizations who are historically speaking weak in this regard, which is customer service. Consumer surveys in Canada all point to high levels of consumer dissatisfaction with insurance organizations and their service, and a lack of trust in them as well. That's a double whammy. Your insurance firm provides bad service and your customers don't trust you. Insurance has long been an industry in which it is difficult to sustain customer engagement outside a claim or renewal. The insurance organizations in Canada have been lazy in this regard. That's why you are invisible to your customer base. It is traditionally a transactional and commoditized industry in which these customer relationships are not deep and contact is limited. But going forward, you need to ensure continual customer engagement throughout the calendar year. To that end, your organization must engage customers digitally. And keep in mind that the insurance industry is on this verge of this seismic technology-driven shift. And something, look at this. It's clear, firstly, that other sectors and other industries have been developing greater customer interaction and engagement through digital channels, such as even banks and a lot of retailers. They have become strong at including tools and personalized information on their apps that drive the customer to engage with them more frequently online and in other channels. Consumers are starting to expect this out of the insurance industry. So what is your organization doing about it? Secondly, the large traditional brokers and insurance carriers are facing increasing competition on several fronts. Obviously, insurtechs are springing up on every side, thin slicing the market and developing different agile propositions around micro events and micro type insurance. And beyond all that, the retail giants such as Amazon, those types of organizations could easily consider bundling insurance into their other offerings. Additionally, insurance organizations are seeing increasing competition from non-traditional competitors entering the insurance market, but as an adjacent market for them. Think of something like Tesla and car insurance, for example. So the fundamental key for your organization is, how do you go about driving greater customer engagement? There's 5 key areas for that. The first is do the basics well. The second is get predictive. The third is you have to think about more than just insurance. The fourth is data mining, your data culture, which means embracing artificial intelligence and machine learning. And the fifth thing is change your operating model. Your insurance organization must reimagine insurance, and you need to think and act like a retailer, because the retail industry does it better than you do. The retailization of insurance is not only inevitable, it's actually well underway. So any insurance organization that thinks otherwise is going to find itself at the back of an expanding playing field. And to become a good retailer, that means you got to focus on the customer. The brand name. Brand names are not all equal. Buying coverage direct through digital platforms for consumers, making that available. And if you want good customer engagement, give customers some control over the customer journey. And digitization does that. Your human staff don't. Design your sales and service process and support process. Design it for trust so that there's predictability and consistency and provides advice and different options and value adds for your consumers. An insurance organization today in Canada, it's got to leverage its marketing capabilities and then build the customer relationship first and focus on selling insurance second. This is a different way of thinking. So how do you get started? Well, in the following slides, we're going to cover off little different subcomponents of that. The first one is in this slide is about be social. Your organization, your team of employees must be social. eMarketer reported that nearly every millennial-aged person between the age of, say, 20 and 34 said that they used social networks. 96% of them did, by the way, and instant messaging services, 95% of them, in each year since 2014. So insurance organizations, beware. According to lifehealthpro.com, millennials will make sure that your organization, or you as an individual professional, insurance professional, has a Twitter account. The majority of them will check this. They will check to make sure that you are answering questions on Twitter about insurance. It is not enough for your firm just to launch a faceless Facebook business page. Is your firm replying quickly to questions that are posted there or elsewhere? Is your organization actively engaging on LinkedIn, for instance? Do you have an easy to navigate website with a plethora of information on it? Obviously, are you on Instagram, Snapchat, all these myriad of different platforms where you're engaging and answering questions from your customer base? Many of these platforms where you can engage your customers, fortunately, are segmented to a degree into their user base by age group. For Snapchat, for instance, favors a younger cohort, whereas Facebook tends to favor an older cohort. So this allows your engagement in a way to be easier. But still, the point is you must be engaging and actively answering questions in these sites. And most insurance organizations in Canada are failing to do this. In real time, by the way. In this slide, we're going to briefly touch upon building communities and how this is relevant to securing your revenue base for your insurance organization. In this century, you cannot sell your products and services the way you have traditionally gone about it. The simple reason for that is in the ecosystem economy, in the digital economy, selling the way your firm traditionally has does not put you in a position to scale. To sell effectively today, this century, your organization must engage your consumer base on your behalf to sell on your behalf. And to achieve this, your insurance organization needs to construct communities of customers who essentially are becoming your brand advocates. To this end, you need to primarily focus your sales efforts on building a concrete base, the underpinnings, sort of like a foundation before you build the high-rise tower. From this concrete base that you're building, you can then spring forward from that with your sales efforts. This entails focusing on building powerful and loyal communities of customers. You cannot sell by focusing your sales efforts, digital efforts, by online ads exclusively. You will fail. That model does not work today and going forward. Instead, focus your sales efforts on your chosen target markets, the particular communities that you want to pursue to sell your insurance products and services. And then you want to go about creating a supporting community around that target market. Most assuredly, that once you choose the particular product you want to sell, then you create the supporting community around it. You construct that. I can assuredly tell you that you will then gain traction through your online community with selling your insurance products and services. It is an effective strategy in the ecosystem digital economy today. So once you examine at your organization your current sales process and methods, if it's not including these basic elements I told you of community building, then you're completely missing out all the opportunities offered to you in the ecosystem digital economy. So the primary aim of selling today in the ecosystem economy, in the digital economy, is to enable your customer base to essentially become your sales team. And you achieve that through the development and construction of online communities. So there are some key things to hone in on. The first one is your firm must start building communities and stop selling. To this end, identify the type and the nature of community that your firm wants, and there'll be many of these. It might be tied to some type of interest or an activity or a cause that you deem has some degree of high esteem. Or it could be a supporting, loving type of community group. And there's many other myriad ideas we can come up with. But these different types of communities that you target and then you develop and construct, they must be in line with your firm's brand and its services and products that you are offering. It should be one that your ideal customers find value and want to participate in. Now, the second key point to achieve all of this is to build communities and then your target market and all this, you need to do your research. So you actually need to bring a new skill set into your insurance brokerage, your MGA, and your insurance carriers. And this is a team of researchers. Without them, you cannot succeed selling in the modern ecosystem digital economy. You will fail. Your organization will become irrelevant. So once you've made the arbitrary decision to pursue a certain community and communities that you're targeting, that you want to build, Now you go about this extensive research to find similar existing communities out there in other industries. Then you want to learn all about these groups of people and potential consumers, and you want to analyze how they're engaging with their other similar membership. And while you're doing this, you are paying attention to the content that is shared among those community members and how they operate and engage with one another. Because you will have to mimic this in the construction of your community for your insurance products. And remember, you're constructing these communities in order to serve the membership of those communities. That's your primary aim. And by doing that, you will end up selling the products and services that you want to sell to gain revenues. A third key point around building communities is that you want to build communities that have the clear potential to go, as they say in the modern parlance, viral, go big and can scale. Typically, what we see with digital content in community building that does scale up is that it ties to emotions. So it can actually be very complex emotionally. And there's also this whole undercurrent of positivity that runs through that construction and messaging. And part of this entails simply being authentic and creative. That if you're not, you can't tap into the emotions of the consumer base. So you need to listen to the concerns of the members of the community that you're targeting. And you need to talk about all of the real issues that matter and are relevant to them. So in the construction, along these lines, in the construction of your community, it's important and critical that you find thought leaders in the community who can help foster and expand the awareness of your brand efforts. A fourth point in building community is that, and it's critical for your organization, is that you've got to hone in on your skill set surrounding hashtags. If your company does not have a hashtag, then you're clearly missing out. And what you are missing out on is the ability to track and mobilize your communities of customers, which means you're not selling, you're not increasing your revenues, which essentially means in the digital ecosystem economy, you are irrelevant. So once you decide on a hashtag and these various hashtags, then you want to encourage your community of members and customers to use it when they share their stories and their insights and their images and the videos online. And part of the reason for this is when people are using that hashtag, then you're actually able to connect with them. And as a result, when any of your community members, and some of them could have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, they may share that hashtag on social media platforms, for instance, and that means that your brand is being exposed to thousands, if not millions, of new and potential customers. And the wonderful part of this type of exposure is that it's free. It's simply a creative endeavor. The hashtags allow your organization to do what we call as social listening. The end point of part of this type of endeavor is that when you actually go online and search your firm's brand's hashtag and hashtags, because you'll have more than one, you can clearly see the conversations that your community is talking about. So this acts as a feedback loop for ideas for new product development, refining the products that you have, but also refining and improving your service levels. So at the end of the day, you need to come up with a hashtag or hashtags that are at the core of your community building. So make sure that the hashtag is not too long, and you want to ensure that it is easy to remember. And then you always want to ask all of your customer base, your community members, to use it when they post about the community, about whether it's your products or services or whatever. And a fifth key point is don't be an outsider in the community that you have constructed. If you're building a community from outside the community, then it's not really an authentic community. You can identify people and set the foundations, but your organization needs to get involved in that community from the inside. So make sure that you're monitoring the conversations in your community. If messages go unanswered or requests are going ignored, you are going to lose members. So it's important that you follow the hashtags and that you configure your notifications so that you can be made aware of any new comments and posts and act on those in real time, whether you're using bots to do that or human beings. So you want to strive to reply very quickly and rapidly to comments and involve your leaders in the community conversations. And don't shy away from reaching out to members using direct messaging and emails or text messages or other social media platforms that they can be engaged upon. And always be sure to follow industry trends so that you can share that type of related content with your community base and give your members a behind the scenes look at your own insurance organization by capturing images and videos that show your employees at work and business in action on a day-to-day basis in a natural, authentic way. A sixth key point about building communities is concerns bringing your online community offline. Now, what does this mean? What does that entail? Well, essentially, it means incorporating offline events and gatherings so that your online community can meet each other in real life, the human touch. These things makes people excited, and it gives them something to look forward to and helps your community build bonds. And during these in-person gatherings, these types of events, make sure that you take lots of pictures and videos and encourage live sharing. And then you're going to obviously take this content that was captured at the event, at these offline events, and you're going to share it all online. And then, of course, you want to capitalize on those efforts with the use of your hashtag. Fundamentally, keep in mind that with today's consumer-centric economy, and all of these review-conscious shoppers of insurance that your organization's engaged in, your consumer base plays a much larger part in your organization's sales process than you actually realize. So, at the end of the day, build a community for them, and then you're going to watch your sales scale. Reviews. Reviews are important. Millennials want to read them. Think of something like Yelp, for instance. So encourage everyone who uses your products and services at your organization to share their opinions online across all these different social platforms. Then you must distribute this content, that opinion content, everywhere you can find it. Post reviews on your website and on your Facebook page and all these other platforms that your organization engages. Tweet them out. These things must all be in place at your organization before millennials will even look at your products and services. If your leadership does this, you have the chance to sway millennials favorably in your direction, the direction of purchasing services at your firm, at the exact moment when that millennial is deciding when and what to buy. On-demand insurance is key to your organization's success going forward. Let's consider an American carrier called EffectiveCoverage.com. It's got a what I would call a pleasurable website, a nice website. It's a national American online renters insurance provider. They have over 100 videos on its website that can answer questions about renters insurance that people want to know. And they're short videos. They're not all like 3 or 4 minutes long. Sometimes they're 30-second hits. And why is Effective Coverage providing all these videos and keep creating new ones? Well, it's because millennials have questions. They want answers instantly, and they don't always want to speak to your live customer service agent at your brokerage office or the direct carrier. Sometimes they want to find it themselves through social media, on Instagram, on YouTube, and Facebook, and elsewhere. Millennials will not wait for your business hours to get things done. So how is your business model responding to that? If your website cannot provide answers at any time, and most Canadian insurance organization websites are abysmal, they're terrible. So if your website can't provide these answers at any time, 24 hours a day, millennials, and some of the rest of us too, actually including myself, we become impatient and we move on to someone else's website who will provide those answers and that information. But if your organization can provide answers to the customer on demand, then you have a good start, an opportunity at building a relationship and eventually selling insurance products to the modern consumer. The explosion of posts on services like Instagram and Foursquare attests to the fact that many of us like hearing about what others are up to. So we need to build on these customer stories. Your firm needs to build on these customer stories by leveraging big data and analytics to develop customer profiles that resonate with your target customer base. And this can help convey actually a comfort level to millennials, this personalization, and also to customers new to insurance products that your organization may know or touch upon because you're engaging them in terms of what their needs are, where they need something, so the customer can better relate to your firm. And just as an aside, it's shocking actually, if you actually step back and think about this, about how many of us make our purchasing decisions in life based on what our peers are doing. So your insurance organization in Canada, what are you doing about these peer-to-peer networks? And then tailoring your sale of your products and services and the servicing component around these peer-to-peer networks. You know, the brokerage channel and carrier channel in Canada has been extremely lazy and willfully ignorant in this regard. Your organization must experiment with distribution and be prepared and embrace failure, because that's going to happen, but that is part of the process of discovery. Gone are the days when the local agent, the local broker are the key to selling insurance. That's a wake-up call. 67% of millennial-aged population prefer to purchase insurance directly from an insurance carrier. That's leaving brokerages and agents out of the picture, out in left field. Let's consider an example. A French insurance company, AXA, has funded something called Policy Genius, which is an online-only insurer that sells life and disability insurance, along with policies that cover renters' possessions and pets. Since its inception in July, approximately middle of 2014, Policy Genius has been visited by well over 1 million users. And according to Bloomberg, more than half of those customers are millennial. So how is your Canadian insurance organization positioning itself in this regard? So let's touch on cognitive agents, which are critical to your insurance organization's success going forward. You know, look, since local agents and brokers operating in a traditional manner don't appear to be in a growth opportunity, I think that's an obvious, except for the high-value commercial lines areas. Your organization must consider using cognitive computing to provide self-service virtual customer service agents. These empowered advisors never sleep, and they can speak in a customer's native language to answer questions and even to sell policies. Cognitive agents would allow a rapid expansion of your distribution outlets for various insurance sales and products that you want to offer. If I think of an example to illustrate this down in the United States, there's one I could come up with that I read about where there were 3 million patients at 7,000 healthcare clinics in the US. These healthcare clinics were all co-owned. Well, with cognitive agents in place, why couldn't all of them become places that sell life insurance, for instance? Similarly, why couldn't cognitive agents sell auto insurance in every single car dealership? Critically to keep in mind is that cognitive computing can be used to transform underwriting so that an insurance organization can better identify risks and actually do so much more quickly, but also tailor an insurance product for that specific customer's needs in real time. And actually, so this leads to the cognitive computing does tie into experimenting with new products and new product features with insurance products and services. In fact, I think Swiss Re in the United States is already using cognitive computing to improve its underwriting process. And another American firm called Haven Life is addressing something that's particularly useful for the under 35 aged customer for insurance, which is Haven Life is addressing the instant, I guess what you could call the instant gratification desires that the under 35 customers have these days by providing 90 days of temporary coverage until the required medical underwriting is fully completed, but there's a cognitive computing element to that. But let's go even a step further. Why not use cognitive computing to help policyholders avoid the pain and suffering of damage from a claim or a loss? Let's look at auto insurance, for example. Let's say that the weather network can predict where a hailstorm is going to hit a particular area. That's a real problem, especially in Alberta, as we know. This data, combined with a prediction of a customer's likely driving route through the province of Alberta during a hailstorm, could spur a message from the insurance organization provider advising that customer of the hailstorm. This is in real time, like minutes or a couple hours before it's happening, and then directing that customer to drive around the affected geographic area, provided they're still far enough away, or at least direct that customer to the nearest public parking structure under which they can take cover and protect their vehicle from a hailstorm. So those types of drivers or customers who successfully avoid that hailstorm area or who take cover will avoid damage, obviously, or at least substantially reduce it, and fewer or smaller claims will result. So add to this, drivers who show such a willingness to change their driving behavior based on that weather input should receive a price discount, which is done in real time. You need AI for that, artificial intelligence, to do this, but that's how you need to treat a customer. And the modern consumer expects this. So what is your traditional insurance brokerage or insurance carrier in Canada or MGA doing to respond to this? I know very few of you are doing anything at all, let alone even talking about it. Your insurance organization needs to consider developing a peer-to-peer insurance product and services. Millennials love transparency, so combining social networking and insurance, peer-to-peer insurance allows individuals to form their own insurance networks which openly track claims. Any premiums not paid out in claims are then returned to the peer network that originated them. Since friends and families tend to recruit their own peer-to-peer insurance networks, frivolous claims are discouraged. The insurer wins by paying fewer claims, and the policyholders win by reducing the cost of their insurance. Of course, the ultimate in risk protection will be insurance products and services that mold themselves around a person's lifestyle. So, insurance as a service, not just a transactional product. Consider a world where our insurance rates fluctuate minute by minute, depending on a customer's unique risk context and profile. Looking at this angle of insurance provision, consider cognitive computing. Accessing real-time data sourced from Internet of Things, IoT, sensors, and APIs. This will allow insurance providers in Canada to tailor protection on an ongoing basis, taking into account a policyholder's, your customers, individual factors and circumstances. Thus, you're providing a completely personalized micro-insurance policy. Given these advantages I just stated, it's no wonder that a progressive leadership team at a Canadian insurance brokerage or carrier, MGA, those leadership group, the executives, must invest in cognitive capabilities. But how many of your firms are actually doing this? Now, regarding your customer engagement efforts, it's imperative that you design for trust, because as I said earlier, consumer surveys in Canada overwhelmingly state overtly that consumers do not trust insurance providers, insurance workers, insurance organizations. More than 2/3 do not trust you. So don't think your firm is an exception to this or your employees are. So fundamentally, you must design for trust, your sales, your service, your customer support efforts. Insurance organizations of all types need to embed trust into every single interaction with an existing or a potential client. And to that end, there are 5 guiding principles to keep in mind. The first is predictability, the second is consistency, the third is advice, the fourth is options, and the fifth is value add. As for number one, predictability, help customers understand clearly what they're buying, why it matters, and how to respond to a claim. Number two, consistency. Do what you say you will do and deliver on promises without hesitation. This is the foundation of trust. Don't consider doing any more until that base is solid. Number three, advice. Customers will seek information from a variety of sources, but ultimately place value in a trusted opinion. Make sure that's you. Number four, options. Giving customers the option to make choices establishes a sense of intimacy and partnership and collaboration in the decision-making process to purchase insurance or services related to that. So ensure that customers have relevant options and make them readily available through your own channels so customers don't have to turn to other sources. Now, many of your organizations assume and state that you already do that, but if you break it down, you actually don't, especially if you compare yourselves to other industries who do it much better. Number five, value add. Learn more about each customer to understand what kind of adjacent services or products they may want, when they may want those, and how they want to receive them. So this fosters your participation in the partnership economy and the ecosystem economy. And I just want to add, beyond trust, a key thing with customers is give customers some control. And this is where digital platforms empower the consumer, which is why your firm needs to aggressively go digital today. You should have actually done it yesterday. Extending a little courtesy to your client base goes a long way. And it also removes some of the traditional contact boundaries with your firm. Some research that I have seen shows that when customers are given control over the content and the frequency of communications that an insurance organization sends to them, the majority of them, around roughly about 2/3, show that they'll be open to learning about those new product offers or service offerings or relevant coverage options. Other research that I've seen shows that roughly about half, 50%, of communications between an insurance organization and the policyholder. The policyholder, about half of them, considers it to be spam, that communication, if it wasn't about their policy, or if the customer didn't have control over that interaction. So there is a nuance here to the nature of your communication. The research I've seen also overwhelmingly suggests that customers are quite willing to share personal information with your organization in exchange for something of value to them. Roughly about half, that 50% of their responses I've seen, when you aggregate all the research I've looked at, shows that the insurance customer would share information with your organization in order to obtain a more personalized experience. And even more than that, closer to 2/3 say they are willing to share personal information if it may lead to a discount on their insurance premium. Or this type of incentive, in terms of monetary incentive, persuades the customer with insurance to divulge more about themselves. That in turn empowers your organization to sell more products and services, but also to create a more personal, intimate experience with that customer base. The handwriting is clearly on the wall. It's a brave new world in the insurance industry today in Canada. In order to succeed, insurance organizations of any type must better understand their policyholders and their customer base within the customer's unique context, and then offer products and services that engage consumers via their preferred marketing and distribution touch points. What I just stated is a loadful of information. Insurance carriers and the brokerage channel in Canada, historically and today, most of the participants in the industry are lazy in the way in which they engage customers. They think they know their policyholders and their customer base, but the truth is they don't. They have very little information. There has been an arrogance and a laziness amongst the broker channel and the carrier channel. And proof of this is just look at other industries around the world and in Canada. progressive ones in how they engage their customer base. Then look at your insurance organization. You know we're on the radar map relative to these other firms. Going forward, you must custom design insurance products in real time for your consumer base. The thing of the annual insurance policy for 12 months and you pay a premium, you go on a monthly premium policy payment program, that's a thing of the past. That has a role for specific products, yes, but you must create new products, episodic insurance products, products tailored to the customer's lifestyle. And then you must look at all these different social media platforms. Where are your customers? Where do they want to purchase insurance? Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Apple software products. There's a variety of different platforms where you need to engage your customer. You can't say arrogantly sit back and have your customer come to your website or come to your firm. You must go to your customer. You chase them where they are to sell products and services that your firm offers to where they are, their preferred channel and point of distribution. That requires a radical shift in your thinking for your typical Canadian insurance brokerage and insurance leadership at carriers who've always been lazy and arrogant in this regard. There is no question in my mind that insurance business models will be transformed as well as be disrupted over the next 5 years, and especially over this next decade. But even traditional insurance organizations are not necessarily all consigned to failure, provided they have the foresight and the perseverance to evolve into providers of insurance products and services that today's customers seek. The bottom line is that to succeed, your organization, your leadership team, you need to learn how to build a complete understanding of each customer's unique personal situation and then proactively offer insurance solutions that help them cope with whatever their asset provision and needs are, 24 hours a day, with on-demand responses on a fully digital platform. And this means embracing and making investments in artificial intelligence and blockchain-enabled technologies, among a myriad of other things. And there is one other crucial thing I want you to take away, and that is that the agent and broker and insurance carrier mode of distribution of insurance in the West and throughout other parts of the world was created during the Industrial Revolution in England in the 1700s and 1600s. So how is such a business model relevant going forward as society transforms itself and we live and reside in the midst of this paradigm shift? That is no longer a relevant business model. Hence, the brokerage channel in Canada is disappearing and has been disappearing for 23 years. And over the next decade, what is left of it will be so thoroughly disrupted, there'll be very few players, and those that do exist will mostly be captive to a given insurance carrier. So look at your organization today, if you are an MGA or a brokerage in particular, but also if you're the small mutual companies and some of these other, but also including the more backward, modest-sized insurance carriers. Think about how your business model was created during the Industrial Revolution. So how is that relevant in today's modern society with changing consumer preferences and habits? Obviously, it's not relevant. So you must radically change your business model. You must radically make new investments in new areas that you never previously considered. If you fail to do this, your company will be extinct within 5 years to 10 years. Essentially, there are some fundamental and obvious opportunities for your insurance organization to succeed, in particular in the area of engaging your customer base. And to engage them more effectively and more intimately, there are a number of things that you need to do. In checklist form, those are go digital, go mobile, be a leader in episodic insurance, be a data-driven organization, think like a retailer, invest in emerging technologies for some practical applications for your business, such as artificial intelligence and blockchain, among other ones. Seize competitive advantage by being a leader and taking some risks within the context of this technology-driven shift and the population diversity shift that we see in this country. Reinventing your customer interactions, reimagining them, re-envisioning them. Reinvent your business model. Refocus your customer service and customer support efforts to enable better speed and friendliness in order to meet the expectations of the modern consumer, not your expectations, their expectations. And move your organization with the speed of light in terms of your strategic planning and the actions that you take out of that. Become a hub for innovation within your organization. Be a research-driven organization. Focus on developing intimacy and trust with your consumers. Design your own products and partner and collaborate with outsiders, including competitors. Think like a retailer. Be a disruptor. Be open for business 24 hours a day. Create highly visible brands. Adopt a test and learn approach and discovery approach to your operations and never be fearful of failure.